Now approaching the market research presentation for ASUM Transportation's U- and Gold Line usage in the Lewis and Clark Village. Group members include Courtney Cathers, Sienna Gordon, Sam Johnson, and Hannah Leonard. The intro for this study was ASUM Transportation U- Gold Line Awareness and Usage in the Lewis and Clark Village. The research question was, what perceptions do Lewis and Clark residents have towards ASUM transportation, and how does this affect their ridership patterns? Next stop, target audience.
Please watch your hands and feet.
The target audience for this project were Lewis and Clark residents who are typically upperclassmen ages 19 through 23. The project was focused on Lewis and Clark residents due to the fact that ASUM Transportation does not have any data regarding Lewis and Clark residents and their ridership patterns. Lewis and Clark residents are regarded as one of the target audiences that primarily use ASUM Transportation more than most groups.
Next up, research method and procedures.
This project used a combination of causal and descriptive survey designs, which determine cause and effect relationships and characteristics of the target market. We wanted to know what caused Lewis and Clark residents to use or not use ASUM transportation, especially its late-night service, Gold Line. Our sample population was restricted to Lewis and Clark residents who willingly took our survey, which was distributed through a convenience, non-probability sampling method. Using this method, we were able to collect 160 completed surveys out of a population of about 430 residents.
Next up, survey content.
Wait, Courtney, I forgot my bag.
For the survey we conducted, we felt it was important for us to ask a variety of questions that would properly assess Lewis and Clark residents' perceptions of ASUM transportation and their typical usage of the bus services provided by ASUM transportation. We asked questions that regarded ASUM transportation use and what deterred residents from not using the bus services provided. We also asked if residents were even aware of the services provided by ASUM Transportation, as well if they were aware of the new name of ASUM Transportation's Gold Line. We felt it was important to also ask if students felt it was important to add new destinations to the route, and it would add for them to give another incentive for them to use ASUM transportation. In addition to asking these questions, we also felt it important to ask how students felt about the ASUM transportation system as a whole, as well as how they felt about other passengers who use the bus system. In addition, we also asked if students felt there needed to be an increase in service or additional stops to be added. As well as these questions, we also wanted to compare how students felt about the Mountain Line versus U-, and we also wanted to gain a sense of the student demographics who answered our survey.
Next up, study limitations.
Watch a step.
During our research, we faced a few crucial limitations. First, Lewis and Clark management told us that door-to-door solicitation was against the Student Conduct Code. This meant we had to request a tabling location, which ended up near the mailboxes at first. Our second limitation was the weather, which forced us to take cover under the roof in front of the recreation center. The weather also caused residents to be more opposed to taking our survey since they would have to stand out in the cold longer than they wanted to. A third limitation was the times we chose to table. Since we were tabling at the exact same times each day, we were only getting a fraction of the residents in Lewis and Clark and thus completely missing out on the morning crew. Our final limitation was group member schedule conflicts. Due to this limitation, we had to pack up early or start later because a member could not be there during that time.
Next up, key findings.
I found a quarter.
Almost all respondents were aware of the late night bus service offered by ASUM Transportation, and 49% of respondents knew that the late night service name had been changed from UDash to Gold Line. The second most popular answer was UDash, which suggests that either some people are not aware of the name change or simply cannot remember the new one. Unfortunately, there was a slight issue with response inconsistency. For example, in question 1, only 7 respondents said they never use ASUM Transportation, but further on in the survey, 29% of respondents said they never use ASUM Transportation. Despite this inconsistency, we were able to determine that riders tend to use Gold Line to return home from various destinations, suggesting that they went somewhere with the intent to drive themselves home but became unable to throughout the night. Thankfully, there was a general positive feeling towards UDash, and that it runs frequently enough. There was a desire for additional stops, though, especially in front of the Mansfield Library and on Woodworth Street. This desire for new stops was also the determining factor in ridership for people who said they do not use ASUM Transportation. A factor that was surprisingly not a determining factor in ridership was the behavior of other passengers, such as being loud or annoying, as well as the crowdiness of the bus.
Next up, recommendations.
Oh, I don't need a quarter for UDash.
The recommendation we have, given our analysis, is to add additional pickup and drop-off stops to the existing Gold Line route. For example, as stated earlier, the most popular stops chosen in the survey were Woodworth Street and the Mansfield Library. Any additional stops can be determined by conducting a survey of riders on all routes and locations. Even though it was not in our initial survey, many residents commented that having a bus run on Sunday would be a great addition, as there are no other public transportation options on this day. Besides these 2 recommendations, there was not anything else alarming in the study that we believe needs to be done, and ASUM Transportation is doing a good job of promoting itself and the late night bus.
Now approaching the end.
Everyone get off the bus.
In conclusion, ASUM Transportation is generally well-liked and functioning well, and you don't need a quarter. The only areas that may need improved are locations of pickup and drop-off stops, as well as Sunday routes, since those were the only ridership deterrents. As far as answering our research question, we saw that if residents had a knowledge and positive perception of Gold Line, they tend to ride more frequently. Thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the ride.
Oh my God, Sienna, that was so fun.